welcome back to Riding the Pine. This is a review of Game 23 of the 2020-21 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Chicago Blackhawks made a statement defeating their rival Detroit Red Wings by a score of 7-2. Patrick Kane is the story of the game, getting his 400th goal of his career. They improved their record overall to 12-7-4. But before we get to the actual review of the game tonight, if you do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, please and thank you. And leave a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. And as always, I'm joined by Chai sports fan Joe. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Kyle. Well, I think I kind of called it. I said we would respond tonight, and it looked, pretty tight after the second period, but what a breakout in the third. And congrats to Kaner on 400. Just an incredible player, and really lucky and honored to have had him be on our side for, the last, 13 or 14 seasons. So,
Yeah, I'm happy that he got the goal tonight because I think they even alluded to it on the broadcast. I don't think that's something that you want drug out, right? Like you want to get that done and over with so they can move on. And they were talking about the guys on the ice trying to get him the puck, and that can lead to bad plays. And we don't need any more bad performances after last.
right. Well, especially a monkey like that on your back. I think, yeah, you want to try to get it up and out of the way as soon as possible. And I'm just glad it happened for Kaner.
Well, it was, how long did it take Duncan Keith to get his 100th goal? Like, did that take 30 games or
Yeah, I think
something?
I know with him it took quite a while, but with him being a defenseman.
Yeah. What was this? Even now, he still doesn't score. But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of defensemen scoring, our fan favorite, Nikita Zadorov, scored his first goal as a Blackhawk. His first goal, I believe they said in 40 games. I think it was February of last season. An assist to David Kampf. Uh, Beautiful goal. It was a wrist shot, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, in the first period. Great to get the Blackhawks to lead. Obviously, we talk about that a lot. And then I noticed all the, or not all of the, I guess, haters for Zadorov.
Critics is, yeah, I put it more kindly.
They were silent, and then I saw a lot of people sticking up for him tonight, so I'm really happy to see that. I don't know if they listened to the show or what, but obviously glad that he's starting to get a little bit more respect. And then moving on, late in the first period, Ryan Carpenter got his first of the season and scored a weird goal. Highmore, I believe, got a turnover from Franz Nielsen, and then Mitchell came in, kind of skated into the slot, I believe, and then shot it. And then I'm not entirely sure how the puck got into the net, to be honest. But do you have a better way to explain that second Blackhawks goal tonight?
No, but I think it hit off of Biega. I think that's from what I saw when the one Carpenter scored.
Yeah, the second
Yeah,
one.
I think when Carpenter shot it, it deflected off of Biega and then behind Greiss. So I think that's how it went in. But hey, we'll take it either way.
Well, that's one of those old adages that you know, just put the puck on net.
Right, right. You never know what can happen. So
And then to our first negative of the night, literally 30 seconds later, a lot like last night, Detroit answers with Sam Gagner getting a tip from Merrill and how do you
Domestikov.
Nemestikov. Yes, Jesus. I'm half out of it tonight. That's what happens when they do this back-to-back stuff. I get tired.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah, but yeah, I'm not good reading weird Russian names late at night. But um, yeah, mental lapses we saw again. Some people I know were commenting on Murphy, and I think I even said that Murphy, at least up to that point, was kind of having a bad night. I just literally before we came on went and rewatched that play. I think Murphy played that perfectly, to be honest. I think the problem was a miscommunication between Soderberg and Zadorov. Um, so again, they can't do that. You can't. This team did that last year, so I think that's a little concerning that it's happened in consecutive games where you score and then literally within 30 seconds the other team gets it right back.
Right. Right. And that's, like I said, it's all about capturing momentum, but you can't surrender it. You gotta, and I don't know if it's just maybe they're kind of just taking their foot off the gas for that, brief moment of time. And, hopefully, like you said, now, it happened once last night. You say, okay, but now it happened twice. So it's like, all right, well, come on, we got to nip this in the bud really quickly here.
Yeah, and then entering the second period, it was kind of a goalie battle. No goals. Thomas Greiss and Kevin Lankinen held them scoreless, and up to that point, so it was a 2-1 game going into the third period, and there were 53 shots between the two teams. So this game was a lot closer than the final score obviously indicates. Um, but the third period started, and the floodgates just opened. And quickly, I might add, a minute and 30 seconds into the third period, His Holiness Saint Pius Suter the first scored his seventh and rookie leading seventh goal of the season from Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. That line continues to sizzle. And then Ryan Carpenter, I think I said it was his first goal, by the way, earlier. It was actually his
Yeah, it
second.
was his second. So
Yeah. And then he picked up his third goal in the third period from DeBrincat and Boqvist. Again, I mentioned it during the rant, was one of the actual analytics that I mentioned during last night's rant. Adam Boqvist picked up his seventh assist on that goal. Uh, I thought the last two games, Boqvist has probably been his two best of the year, maybe even last three. Um, so that's nice to see. Again, take it with a huge grain of salt. We're playing Detroit. It'll be very interesting to see how he performs in particular, considering how the Vegas playoff series went and considering.
did you like seeing him on the power play, Carpenter?
Um, I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, right, with Strom out and with Shaw out, and I mean, they're kind of limited as who they're going to put on there. I mean, they're giving Soderberg time on there, and then Carpenter time on there. Um, yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, it was his first power play goal tonight.
No, yeah, I agree with, it's like you got to try to create I've liked Carpenter the way he's, his gritty style of play, and I like having that kind of presence on the power play too, and
Yeah, you need somebody that can do the dirty work, I guess, if you will, along the boards, and whether it's not even necessarily along the boards, but in front of the net, and you know, any kind of dirty work that, say, a player like Kubalik does not like to do. Although Kubalik did have a very nice defensive play tonight, and I think that deserves recognition. Since I routinely talk about how he does not play defense, uh, so that I will give him props to that play that he made in this game. And yes, thanks, Joe, for correcting me on that. That was a power play goal from Ryan Carpenter. um, and then the big goal. 2 minutes later, Patrick Kane got his 400th of his career, the 11th of the season, assisted by Alex DeBrincat. And what a fitting way, I think Sherrod had mentioned it, and I completely agree, for him to score his 400th goal. Vintage Patrick Kane, slick hands, all the time in the world, poise, patience, went around the sprawling defender and just wristed it top shelf. Just beautiful goal. Um, and again, congrats to Patrick Kane. I don't think there's much doubt that he will become the all-time leading goal scorer for Americans by the time his career is over. I think a big question, though, that somebody, I'll pose it to you, Joe, that somebody had asked is, will Kane catch Nikita if he stays with the Blackhawks?
Boy, I mean, it's because I know he's, I think, 6 goals away from tying Steve Larmer, because I think Larmer scored 406. So Kane just got 400, which I think Larmer's third all time in Blackhawk history.
Yeah.
Because how many did Nikita have? 541, I think.
Yeah. So I guess Hall has what, 604?
Yeah, I don't think he'll catch Hall. I don't know, but I could be wrong on that too, depending on how much longer Kane
Well, I
played.
think
But
so. If he stays with the Hawks for the rest of his career, I'm pretty confident he'll catch Nikita. So Nikita is at,
so you need to what 141 more goals to catch Nikita.
Yeah. So Nikita had 541. So 141 more goals.
Yeah, and if he averages, if he averages, let's say at 30 goals a year, so that'll be probably what a little 4.5 to 5 seasons before he catches Nikita.
Yeah, which would put him at about 38.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the chances are better of him catching Nikita than they are uh, Hall. So,
Yeah, Hall has 604.
so
So, well, here's the thing. And this is speculation. And I've already speculated that I think Alex Ovechkin will break Gretzky's record. So Ovechkin's about, I think, 180 away from Gretzky because he
okay.
scored tonight as well. It's at 713th. And the record is what, 894?
Is that it? Yeah, is Gretzky? I didn't know how many total Gretzky had, but
I think it was 894. Let me look.
okay.
But so Ovi's 35, I want to say. Uh, so I think Ovi's going to play to like at least 42. So that would be 7 more seasons. Gretzky had, 894 is the record. And
Okay.
Ovi has 713. So he's basically 181 goals away from tying Gretzky.
Hmm.
So if he plays, like I said, for age 42 would be 7 more years. Plus this year's still going, right? So give him another like 15 from this year. That would put him at what, about 160 away, and then he's got 7 years left. If he scores 30 a year or 25 a year, he's like, I just think he's gonna play till he breaks the record.
Yeah, I mean,
He's so close
I
that
wouldn't be surprised.
you know what I mean. When you're gonna be that close, like it's like the Barry Bonds thing, right? You're just gonna keep going out there till you break it. Um, so like and my point that I was making with that is that Kane could conceivably play till he's 42, right? So that would be another 10 years That's another decade. And he's not done with this season yet either.
Right. But you just wonder, like, after, 35, I guess, or
Yeah,
36, what your production is going to be like at that time.
Well, if he's so basically he's at 400, right? So he needs 205 to break Hall's record. So basically 200. If he plays 10 more years, he'd need to average 20 goals a year.
Yeah.
But that's not even counting this year, right? So he's still going to score probably another 12, 13 goals probably this year, maybe more.
Yeah, because he's got 11 through, and we're 5 games away from the halfway point. So you figure if he gets 1 or 2 more goals and say he's got 13 at the halfway point, that's probably, and then add another. So if he can get 25 goals this year, that would be pretty amazing.
Speaking of, just staying on the subject, am I wrong here? Doesn't Mike Modano hold the all-time American goals record? Or is that just points?
I don't know if that's
Because so Modano has 557 goals. So that's basically similar to what he would need to pass Nikita. Because what did we say? Nikita was 540?
541, yeah.
And Modano was 557? Yeah.
Well, I think Brett Hall? I think Brett Hall has more.
I was thinking it was Modano.
Yeah, Brett Hall, I think, has 741 goals. Modano has 561.
And then, okay,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It's weird.
Well, game-winning goals, it's okay. So points, it's Brett Hall with 1391, and Kane. So this hasn't been updated yet. So Kane is actually going to move into 6th place relatively soon because he picked up 3 points tonight. So he's sitting at 1,056 points. Joe Mullen is in 6th with 1,063. And Keith Tkachuk is 5th with 1,065. So Kane is going to jump Joe Mullen and Keith Tkachuk to get to 5th place probably within the next 7 games.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Roenick is 4th, next in line at 12-16. So that'll take a while to catch up to JR.
Yeah.
But that's who that's Roenick basically put him on notice now because Kane's coming for him. But goals though, that was the question. So Brett Hull has 741, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's a lot. Kane's not getting that.
No.
Wish he would have, but he's not.
Right.
He'll get the points, I think, maybe. Let's see. So he's about 300 points away from Hull. So he'll probably get that. Yeah. Because he averages about 70 points a season right now.
Just about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he'll get that in about the time he's 36-ish. Or he should, assuming we have no more COVID-shortened seasons.
Right.
But anyways, back to the game. Right after that, about 3 minutes after that, the not very good Shmeknikov brother, the one that plays for Detroit, scored his 2nd of the season. And I don't know. That seemed like another kind of innocent play. That was a wrist shot, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I know it was at the conclusion of the power play. And and I think I don't know if it went off of, I know they were talking about it on the broadcast, if it went off of anybody or if it was just a shot that beat Lankinen. I think it even looked like Lankinen was screened a little bit on the shot, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was, I think, concerning again too, because that was kind of another quick goal. Granted, power play goal, and we were talking as well as that's probably our other negative for the night. Hawks gave the team that couldn't score a power play goal in the whole month of February 2 power play goals in back-to-back games, and that's not good. Um, we were talking about it. I went and looked up the PK stats before tonight's stats have even went in. Hawks were 24th for PK, which is saying something because it wasn't too long ago we were like top 10. So that's definitely something that
Kind of dropped off a little bit.
yep. The power play, at least, I guess, is still scoring when we get power plays. And I guess while we're on that subject, the stats here I think are wrong that I'm looking at because the Blackhawks technically had 2 power plays tonight, I think. Or did
Well, I think wasn't one off because each time they were going to get one, it would seem like it was offset because it wasn't the first one was the face-off debacle, which I don't even know what the heck that was about.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So like they were supposed to get, I guess maybe I thought they had dropped the puck and played one possession before that face-off. I must have missed it though. So I guess if they called the penalty and then so Soderberg was, from my recollection, Soderberg was kicked out of the draw.
Right.
Carpenter came in and he got tied up and something he did they didn't like. I I was confused as all hell. I know the rule. Like I understand if you get 2 consecutive players that get kicked out, you like that's a penalty for like delay a game or whatever. But or unsportsmanlike conduct, whatever they label it as. But like they dropped the puck, didn't they?
Yeah, I didn't know if that's why
Carpenter.
if what happened, like, yeah, I don't know if they dropped it or if Carpenter, if they went to drop it and Carpenter, like, kind of they consider that the false start. And I know, isn't it like if the first guy is thrown out of the face off and then the second guy comes in and kind of gets called for a false start, that they're gonna give you a penalty. I thought maybe that's what happened, but I just didn't see it.
Yeah,
But
well, that's the rule, right? That if 2 guys get thrown out of the face-off circle, it's a penalty. And again, I don't know if that's delay a game. I don't know if it's unsportsmanlike conduct. It's in that realm, right? And that's the rule. But I didn't see that. So, like I said, Soderberg got booted, and then Carpenter came in, and they dropped the puck. Like I'm pretty sure they dropped the puck because Carpenter was tied up with whoever their centerman was.
yeah, you're right.
So like, cause like I remember on the replay, they were like, I'm like, what happened? And like you just see Carpenter tied up with whoever I don't remember who it was their center. I don't know if it was Nielsen or who, but it or was it Glenn Denning maybe? Because Glenn Denning's like there's probably Glenn Denning. He's their best face-off guy. But it was just weird as hell because it was like how can he didn't get kicked out. Like you dropped the puck and the other player is tied up with him. So I don't know. I think most people were like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I mean, I know I was pretty confused on it, but I thought maybe then I said, oh well, maybe they called him for a false start, and that's why he got the penalty because Soderberg was already kicked out of the draw. So, but it is what it is. But then on the second, I think on the second one, yeah, then they called Bobby Ryan for a penalty, but then they called was it Carpenter, I think, for interference.
Uh, no. Carpenter did not get called. Was it
Okay, I don't know who it was. I can't remember, but
Soderberg maybe? Because Camp. Well, no, I guess they didn't call another penalty because the only two penalties that are on here, Soderberg and Camp, and Soderberg had to be that face-off one, right?
no, I think it was Walmart. They according to I'm looking at the Score mobile app, and they have Walmart and Juice, which they have Walmart for the face-off violation. They have Juice for delay of game. I guess both at 6:48. Then they have Soderberg for interference and Biega it was Biega, not Bobby Ryan. I apologize. Biega for holding and Soderberg for interference. Those penalties were offsetting penalties. And then the third, Bobby Ryan for tripping and Camp for high sticking. But though they were 4 minutes apart.
Yeah, NHL.com, you need to get your shit together because this is not correct. Like, I even told you, I was looking at this, and I'm like, what? There were more, because it has them 1-for-1, both 1-for-1, and I'm like, no, there were definitely more penalties, and they don't have Walmart with a penalty at all listed on here. I see Juice, Biega, Ryan.
Yeah, they may have messed up just the Walmart and instead gave it to. They probably should have given it to Carpenter, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like, something's not right.
but yeah, I mean the Blackhawks were going to get. It seemed like they were going to get at least two power plays, but I think they both teams only ended up with one each.
But yeah, Jeremy Colleton, I know, had talked at again. I guess we can talk about this. I'm really disappointed that we're not getting post game shows when the Blackhawks are on national TV. Like, especially tonight after Kane's 400th goal. Like, that sucked. Like,
Yeah,
we got the interview on the ice with Kane, and then they did show Carpenter of like all people. And I know he had 2 goals tonight, but really? Like, no Lankinen, no Colleton, no DeBrincat, who had 4 points. Unless I just missed it, but I didn't see anybody but Carpenter interviewed. Um, and I know they did the interviews because I saw the beat writers tweeting out the quotes. And that's cool, but I'd still like to watch the interviews. Um, so yeah, me and Joe were talking. We don't know if I know there were some cuts due to COVID and stuff like last fall. So I don't know because it seems like last year when the games were on national TV, they did do post game shows. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe we're confusing the bubble and the playoffs because they did post game shows for those. And obviously those were on national TV. But it
could
it's
be just for regular season purposes. They don't do them, but
yeah, but it would be nice if they would though. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. And I would have liked, especially tonight when Kane scores his 400th goal, to get more reaction. But I guess Blackhawks Twitter will probably send out some video of it, I assume. But anyway, Dominic Kubalik, as I said the other night, loves playing Detroit this year. And he also loves playing with Brandon Hagel, who again set him up for another beautiful goal with a bunch of just hard work from Hagel. Uh, Basically, just gave Kubalik a tap in. I mean, what can you say about Hagel? I mean,
yeah, just a gritty player. I mean, really showing his what his abilities have really have come to the surface and winning battles and just setting creating plays and like I said, being able to set up these guys to get these scoring chances. I mean, he's been such a nice role player, and I hope I'm hoping that goals will start to go in for him. I know he's got one, but he deserves a lot more.
yeah. So I believe a goal and 2 assists in his last 5, I believe it is. So 3 points in his last 5 games. great to see from him. I believe he has 6 points now on the season in 20 games. Um, I tell you what, man, and I feel like we're beating a dead horse, but I'm serious. When this team gets Doc and Taves, and if Bowman, I don't know what he'll do. He's got to do something. And like we've speculated, Dahan is definitely on his way out. And if it's not Dahan, it'll be Zadorov, but I would assume it would be Dahan. And that frees up $4.5 million. Zach Smith comes off the books. That's 3.5 mil. That's $9 million. The amount of cap space that they have, and if Andrew Shaw retires or Seabrook retires, that's a whole other conversation. But if they can get Taves back, get Doc back, and then add another top 6 winger, they can put the puck in the net, whether it's a Mike Hoffman, whether they go big and go get a Taylor Hall, or whatever they can do. And then you think about that and what that does to this lineup by pushing these other guys like Hagel, like Strome when he's back, like Kubalik most likely. These guys that are, probably not top 6 players necessarily. I mean, Kubalik might be, but Hagel obviously isn't. Kurashev isn't right now. He's probably a top 9. But you push those guys down into your bottom 9, and those guys are going to be playing against weaker defensive units since they're the third line or even fourth line. Although, let's be real, Colleton's not touching that fourth line. Um, but
I
that
think
third,
that's the only thing that more worries me is like, the production that we're seeing from these guys this year, like a Suter, like a Hagel, like and even a Kurashev, will it translate to next season? Because I know the majority of these guys are rookies, and we all, I know everybody talks about the sophomore slumps.
yeah.
Do
Well, I think Suter's going to be in the top 6 most likely. Obviously, he won't be centering Kane and DeBrincat. That'll probably be Doc, I would assume.
Yeah.
So Suter will probably be playing a wing position with Taves, assuming Taves returns. And then if they add, well, I'd probably say that if they go and add a Mike Hoffman or a Taylor Hall, they would probably be the other center with Suter, and Taves. And then your third line would be Strome, Kubalik, and Kurashev. I mean, and we haven't even talked about Hagel yet. And Alex Nylander's still bouncing around. Although I have a feeling he's probably going to get drafted in the expansion draft. But I mean, seriously, this team is just would be.
That's what I'm curious, because they have such these plethora of guys that they're trying to find room for and time for. But if the Blackhawks don't, do you feel like Bowman has a decision to make as far as, okay, well, if we make the playoffs, I mean, obviously this isn't a team that's going to go 4 rounds and win the Stanley Cup. I think we all know that. But if they make the playoffs and show signs, maybe pull an upset, get to the second round, okay, then I think Bowman probably has to say to himself, yeah, I think we're a lot closer than we thought we were to being, up in the top tier of being a cup contender again. But if this team, if March, God forbid, March goes south and things start to kind of go awry playing these top teams where, maybe by the end of the month, we're no longer, we've kind of fallen off, or we're chasing a playoff position and we don't make the playoffs. Does Bowman kind of say, okay, well, now do we kind of keep this in rebuild mode for maybe one more year, or another, maybe 2 more years until we're officially contenders again? That's what I'm kind of curious to see what happens.
Well, I don't know. So you make a good point, but so a counterpoint to that would be, let's just assume hypothetically that things continue, and I'm not talking about the team, but let's say the team does what you say, they shit the bed this coming month, and the question is, do you stick with what you got or do you go out and bring in guys, right? I think that's what you're kind of asking. Like, do they go out?
Yeah, it's like, do we, all right, if we start to crap the bed and we're at the middle, I mean, I think the trade deadline is April 12th. So in essence, you've got about a month and a half until that time. So in the next month and a half, if we've really kind of fallen off the pace and we're no longer either chasing a playoff spot pretty heavily or not really in the conversation of the playoffs anymore, obviously, do we sell to work toward being a contender next year or for a couple years down the road?
Oh, I think Yan Mark's well. I think Walmart for sure is probably dealt. Um, I think they're trying to trade DeHaan, like people have mentioned Zadorov, but like it. I just can't see Bowman trading Zadorov because that. And again, let me make this clear. By suggesting that they trade Zadorov, I'm not saying that Zadorov has not played well. I'm just talking about when you look at who you're probably going to move because look, they've got to move a defenseman, not just for opening up a roster spot for the kids, but the expansion draft, right? Because you can't protect every defenseman unless Brent Seabrook waives his no movement clause. Then maybe that changes the discussion a little bit. But as of right now, that's not happening. So they can only protect at max 4 of them. So you would think, and Seabrook and Keith are like, you have to protect them. So they're going to protect Murphy for sure. And then Zadorov and DeHaan are, you can only pick one of them to protect. And I just can't see Bowman like throwing in the towel on Zadorov after he traded for him. I just can't see that. Plus, he's
Well,
only 25
is
years
he
old.
only here on a 1 year? Is he on a 1 year deal, or
Yeah,
is he?
he's a restricted free agent though.
Okay.
So
So basically, I mean, the Hawks have his rights. I mean, a team can obviously come in and say, "All right, we'll give you this," and then the Hawks have to match it.
right,
So,
right. And
but
DeHaan has still got a year left on his contract with DeHaan's going to be 30 years old next year.
yeah,
So to me, DeHaan makes the most sense. Plus, I think DeHaan's played like crap this year. Um, so that I think if they can move, if the wheels fall off, I think if they can move him, they probably do. Um, they probably move, like I said, Walmart. Maybe they move Yanmark. um, I don't know if they would move Carpenter or not. They probably move one of them,
God,
maybe.
I wouldn't want to see him let Carpenter go. I really like his play, but unless you feel like Hagel will, in essence, replace Carpenter,
Well,
but
see, that's the thing. You got to remember, like, because Taves and Doc, if they're both back, two guys have to come out of the lineup. So obviously, Walmart would be one of them.
mhm.
And then Soderberg, who, that's probably another guy you would deal. But
I just don't
Soderberg's,
think what kind of value are you going to get for a Soderberg,
I
But
don't know, man. He's been playing pretty well lately.
yeah, but I mean, he's what? He's 35,
Yeah, but
isn't he?
like, you could get probably a fourth round pick for him. Maybe
Yeah.
even if it's a fifth round, dude. Like, uh,
I
who
think, but
would
if you're talking like in the contention, if you're looking to contend sooner than later, are you looking to, like I said, deal guys that are going to get you, not to say first round picks, but maybe more so second round picks? Or,
they don't have anybody that they can deal that would do that.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think anybody's giving up a second round pick they ain't giving up a first, and I don't think they're giving up a second for DeHaan.
Or just maybe an implant, a young,
Maybe
not,
a forward prospect, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, that's got some skill, but even then, I don't know, like because DeHaan's $4.5 million contract, that's a part of it. And look, I'm not trying to knock him, but when Carolina deems you expendable for, I guess, just cap space, because what did we sent Forsling and Forsberg to them for DeHaan, so that's kind of a knock because Carolina is a hugely successful defensive team, and you only made it 1 year there. So,
Well,
and
and I know he was injured, wasn't he, too, when he in Carolina for
yeah, well, that's the other thing. He's injury prone, right? So again, granted, it's only 1 season left on his deal, but it's still $4.5 million in a flat cap. So he's still going to be hard to move. Um, but we'll see. Uh, but the point that I was going to go with or ask you is assuming, let's just say they don't, let's say they shit the bed and they don't really make any, huge trades or anything. And then they come back, right? So you theorize maybe they don't spend any money. They kind of roll with it for another year and then maybe they spend money in 2 years. However, do you think, and then again, this is making an assumption that things continue the way they're going. Assuming in October we have full stadiums again and full arenas, do you think to try to, because that's a big question about the Black because they were on a sellout streak still, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, if you're wanting to put people in the stands, and even with COVID, being out of it, if you're allowed to be full capacity. And again, I'm running with the assumption that by October, again, if this might be a little controversial for the liberals out there, but if you're trusting the science, right, every American that should be eligible to get a vaccine, so everybody that's 18 and over should have gotten the vaccine if they wanted it by the time October rolls around. So we shouldn't be worried about COVID anymore. Everybody should have the vaccine. So I don't see any reason, again, provided things continue the way they're going, why we wouldn't have full stadiums, whether that be football, basketball, or hockey by October. But if so, let's assume that happens. Does Bowman and the Wirtz Corporation go because they've lost their asses because of COVID, right? They've lost a bunch of money not having people in the stands. And not only that, I think doesn't Reinsdorf and the Wirtzes, don't they co-own the United Center?
Yeah, Reinsdorf and Wirtz both co-own
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that both of them are also losing out on all of that beer revenue and
Concessions and right.
yeah, parking, all that shit. So to try to make up for some of that lost revenue, maybe you just say the hell with it and you go and spend money to bring somebody in and you try to win now? I mean, because that's like, I feel like
Well, and I think it's
I'm
continued
asking.
to, how badly do you want Kane and Taves to, have one more shot at a cup? And I'm sure that's probably what they're thinking is, these guys have done so much. I mean, yeah, they've won 3 of them, but can we get them at least one more shot at a winner if we can build it within the next, year or two? But again, I think that's going to be determined on really what happens this year, if they're able to do it or not. But like you said, with the money constraints, with hampering teams, and the cap probably not going to go up or down, it's probably just going to stay the
Well,
same.
I think that benefits the Hawks though, in a weird way. Like, even though Seabrook is still albatross, like I said, they're gonna have $9 million without Shaw. I mean, or with Shaw still. So if
Mhm.
they like, assuming Dahan is gone, right, and then assuming Smith is gone, which obviously that's almost $9 million in cap space. Granted, you got to bring Suter back, so maybe you have 8 million, but Mike Hoffman's not making that this year. Taylor Hall is making 9. So if you, I mean, seriously, you go to Mike Hoffman or Taylor Hall if they hit free agency and you go, look, why don't you come here for 2 seasons? Because let's face it, the cap's not going up for a while, at least a year, maybe 2. So why don't you sign a 2-year deal and come try to win a cup with Kane and Taves and Doc and all these other good young players that we have? I mean, and the fact that the Hawks have that 9, like they don't need to sign anybody, right? Like that's the kicker in all of this. Other teams have to, like Vancouver, like I think Vancouver's got 20 million in cap space coming up, but they have to re-sign Hughes, they got to re-sign Pedersen, they got to re-sign I think Besser's still, like all this money, Demko, like all this money that they still have to give out. And all these teams are in that position that have cap space. So the Hawks are kind of in a unique situation, right? Where we have money and we basically have a full roster. We don't need
I was going to
to
say who's really up at the end of this year that we have to worry about re-signing.
just Suter,
Oh, is he the only one?
unless we bring Yanmark back. But
Right.
look, like I just said, Yanmark, I didn't even list Yanmark. So so let's say they go and get Mike Hoffman. That's probably cheaper than Taylor Hall, or one of them. But we'll just say Hoffman. So you got Suter, Taves, Hoffman, DeBrincat, Doc, and Kane, Kurashev, Strome, and Kubalik. And then your fourth line, which would be Carpenter, Kampf, Hagel, or Highmore. One of those 2 guys is going to be scratched. So, and like I said, I haven't even talked about Yanmark yet. So maybe, and if they let Yanmark walk, they have an additional 2.5 million. So then you're talking $11 million instead of 9. So again, will obviously got to resign Suter. So maybe Suter gets $1.5 million or something. He's not going to get what Kubalik got, I don't think. Not based off his stats so far. So assuming that you've got $10 million, like, and you Shaw comes out off the year after, that's another 3.5 million that opens up. And then
Yeah, it's just it's all contingent on, I think, it's like a lot of things. And like you said, now if the Hawks don't, season starts to go south this month, do you deal Yanmark?
oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
If you can get, you might be able to get a second rounder for Yanmark.
I was gonna say, I think you can get, depending on how desperate teams are, you could probably milk some teams to get a little bit more than you'd expect for a guy like Yanmark.
Well, and keep in mind too, and well, I guess maybe we should talk about this, and we've talked about it previously, but I expect we'll hear something about it maybe as early as this week. This draft is almost 100% going to be delayed.
Yeah.
Like I don't see, and by delayed I mean like a whole year, because according to all the experts, McKenzie, all the insiders, Friedman, teams don't. There's 3 options: hold it as usual, have it in December, or have it next year, and just have 2 drafts next year. And nobody wants to have it in December. So if they're gonna,
I was going to say, how do you, like, if you postpone the draft, do you have to, for teams that have the position of holding the top 5 spots, do you just have, you have 2 draft, like you said, do you just have 2 drafts in 1 year?
yeah, and they would just be based off the previous year's record. So you'd have the current draft. So next year's draft would be based off next year's record. And then you would know the lottery and everything from this year, but see, that's what makes it interesting, because you're going to know where you're going to be in the draft, right? And you're going to have a whole year to evaluate players. And there'll be less wiggle room because the players are going to be older, more developed than they are normally in their draft year. So when you're acquiring picks for this upcoming draft, like I said, that's probably going to get moved, I think teams might be more willing to deal those picks especially if they don't announce that they're moving the draft. If they don't move the draft, I think you're going to see a lot of picks get traded because nobody's been able to scout anybody. And if you haven't been able to scout anybody, or like you've only been able half the
Well, are
play-
all leagues like pretty much playing right at this point, or are there still some that are not?
well, I think only a third of the CHL's been playing. I think
Okay.
that I think Western Hockey League, the WHL, I think they're going to start playing potentially.
Okay.
Um, I
Like
don't
the, and
think.
then the leagues like in Russia or in overseas, are they
Yeah, they're
playing?
playing. Like so overseas, I think for the most part's playing.
Okay.
It's basically North America, right? And mainly
Okay.
Canadian juniors. Uh, but some of the college kids too had to sit out, and you didn't get teams that may have not have been able to go and look at them or whatever, what have you. But the big thing, like I mentioned, it's Canadian juniors where they haven't, even if they get some games in, you haven't been able to see everybody. And even with European players, look, not every team is Chicago and has the kind of draft, um, not draft, but just the international scouting that the Hawks do. So, where the Hawks maybe have 20 European scouts that cover Europe and Russia, other teams maybe have 5. So, when you have that kind of disparity, like a lot of teams rely on those international tournaments to see players and stuff. And like Lucas Reichel didn't even play in the World Tournament because of COVID this year. So there's not only are there players like teams not playing, but players that aren't playing, and then these teams that rely on tournaments or the CHL playoffs or whatever to watch these guys play might not get to do that. There's been a lot of guys from Canadian juniors that have dropped down to the Junior B Canadian League just to play so they can get looked at. They've had to request permission and stuff, from their, uh, what do you want to call it, Tier A or just, main Canadian junior team. But yeah. And then to wrap up the review of the game, Alex DeBrincat scored his 11th goal of the season. So him and Patrick Kane are tied for the team leading goals. Assists went to Calvin DeHaan and Patrick Kane, his 23rd assist of the season. Alex DeBrincat, man, 4 points tonight, goal and 3 assists. Uh, Ever since he came back from COVID, man, like I don't know if it's just playing with Kane or what, but he's a completely different player, and it's not just from the goal scoring, but in racking up points, but defensively, he's just way better. It's like he took steroids or something.
Yeah, I mean it's been impressive to see, like you said, that line. And I mean, when you're playing with Patrick Kane, I mean, the guy's got, eyes in the back of his head. He can make plays happen, make passes that really nobody else can make. And just, like you said, it playing on a line with a player of his caliber, just, it makes you better. It really, and we sometimes it's like you wonder how, but it's like I said, average players become great players when you're surrounded by great players,
Yeah, I mean, like with Dominic Kubalik, for example.
Yeah. So,
He's
and
obviously
that's
missing Taves this year.
right. But I mean, and that's kind of where this all kind of comes into play. And I mean, would DeBrincat be the same kind of player he is without a Taves or a Kane on his line, or without Strome? We don't know that. I mean, judging by his abilities, yeah, I still think he could still be a good player.
He'd be a good
So,
player, but he wouldn't be producing at what he is right now.
right. So, um, but I mean, again, we're lucky to have this guy on our team. We're just lucky the lottery balls fell where they did. back in 2007, and that Dale Talon didn't, listen to the people that said, "Oh, Kane's too small. He's not going to be, he can't win board battles," and this,
Yeah,
but
he didn't take Sam Gagner.
right, exactly. So
He
he,
humorously
he
scored.
made the right pick, and it's just, between 2006 and it's amazing how 2 drafts really structured this whole franchise. The way it went from that period forward. So
Isn't it kind of hilarious that Sam Gagner scored tonight?
yeah, well, right, and I know I think a lot of Blackhawk fans either were like, please, I don't want to relive the 8-point game, when he was with the Oilers.
Oh,
So
well, no, I'm just referring to the fact that Kane got his because I think Gagne went second overall uh, after Kane. Like it was
no,
between
Van Riemsdyk did.
what was Gagne then? Second or
I don't
third?
know. I think Van Riemsdyk went second, and Kyle Turris, I think,
That's
went
right. Well, what was
third.
Gagne? Because there were questions of whether Gagne was better than Kane because they played on the same line in London.
Let's see, because were they drafted the same year?
I think so. Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe I'm imagining that.
Yeah, let's see. Gagne went sixth.
Okay. Yeah.
So Thomas, Hickey, Turris, Van Riemsdyk, and Kane were ahead of him.
But yeah, that's kind of humorous. Well, I mean, he was line mates with Kane, so.
Oh, and I forgot Alsner. Carl Alsner was also drafted ahead of
Oh
Gagne.
Jesus, that guy fell off the face of the earth. Who was it? Was it Montreal that gave him that large contract, and then he he didn't even finish 1 year
Yeah, I think so.
after he left? It was Washington, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna comment on something. What was it? Crap, I can't. I lost my thought. Had something to do with Kane. Maybe it'll come back to me. Kevin Lankinen stopped 44 of 46 shots, 957 save percentage. What did you think about him tonight?
Yeah, I thought he played well. Made some key stops when he needed to, but again, I think we both talked about it. I don't think Detroit had a lot of A plus, scoring chances tonight. So, I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from Lincoln. And I mean, 46 shots is still 46 shots, and to stop 44 of them, I mean, that's pretty darn good. So, um, but yeah, I think it was just another solid performance from a guy that's really taken the reins and ran with it. So, I'm happy that, and I think like we talked about it, goaltending was such a big question coming into this year, and it seems like that question has really kind of faded to know that we have, Lankinen as our number one and Subban as our number two.
I still question how, if Subban's a number two. I know he's had a good run here, but you still got Delia too, right? And although Delia looked really bad in the 2 games that we saw him, I'm even wondering if I don't know. Do you maybe bring in a veteran backup after this year?
Maybe you see how Delia does. I would imagine he'll be playing quite a bit in Rockford.
Well, he can only play limited because it's a conditioning stint.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many games he can play, but he did play already, and he gave up 6 goals.
Yeah. So
But I don't know how much you can take into that when you haven't played in 2 months.
right. And
Um,
and I feel bad for him because I know he's kind of been waiting in the wings, and it seems like he's gotten some shots, but it just hasn't, it hasn't worked out for him. And I don't know, maybe, I hate to see him go, but it's like maybe a change of scenery will do him better. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody would want him, to be honest.
So
But yeah, I can't remember what, and that's gonna drive me nuts now about Kane. Does that make some point? You're talking about Gagne. Uh, hmm. Oh well.
But yeah, I mean, and it's like, can Lankinen keep up this pace going forward? I mean, it seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He responds well, after a rough outing. So I mean, we like what we've seen so far. But I just hope he can take, like I said, continue to have a grasp on this number one spot and continue to run with it.
Well, I mean, look, I'm kind of excited in a way because we got 3 games with the Lightning coming up.
Right.
And I guess we can preview those. So, game 1 is Thursday. So the Hawks are going to have a 3-day break, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think we're playing back-to-backs with the Lightning. So
yeah, and then we got a day off, and then Sunday is game 3.
So I would imagine, do you start the series with Lankinen and play Subban Friday, or do you start the series with Subban and play Lankinen Friday?
Honestly, I might just throw Lankinen out there for Thursday and Friday, and then if we win both games, again, that's a little unlikely, but
That's a big
yeah. Then I might start Subban on Sunday, and the reason I say that is because you want to put your best foot forward, I think, to start, right? And you've got 3 days off, and Lankinen's only played once in the last 4 days, so that's going to be 1 game in about a week. Subban got the consecutive starts. So, yeah, I think you can probably throw him out there for back-to-back. And has he played a back-to-back yet?
I don't think so.
So that'll be an interesting test for him as well, that maybe you want to expose him to see how he responds. But you know what? If they do that and they win both games, maybe you throw him out there again Sunday, and because when is sorry, I got the Lightning schedule up and not the Blackhawks here, so I was looking at their stuff. But so after the Lightning, the next game from Sunday is Tuesday against the Stars.
Yeah.
Maybe you play Lankinen in all 3 games against the Lightning and then give Subban the Stars on that Tuesday on the 9th.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think if I know Colleton and his, I don't think he'll let Lankinen go back-to-back unless, like I said, unless he shuts him out, or if something just.
I don't know, man.
I don't know though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will play him back-to-back.
I think it's more likely that he goes back-to-back and then Subban would start the Sunday game. But
yeah,
okay, so again, pure speculation right now. But if you look at the standings, so the Lightning have 4 games in hand, and they're a point ahead of the Hawks. So in some miracle fantasy land in my head, if the Hawks win games 1 and 2 against Tampa, and they're probably due because the Lightning have won 4 in a row, so they're probably due to lose here coming up. So if the Hawks win those 2 games, that means the Hawks would then be 3 points ahead of Tampa. And one of those games in hand, 1.5 of those games in hand is now irrelevant. So then if you can win the 3rd game and sweep, and that's why I'm saying, I think it depends on how that series goes. Because, look, I know we're all about developing, and it is developing. You're developing Lankinen. But also, I mean, if you can take over first place in the division, like if you've got a shot to do that going into the last game against Tampa, you take it, right? Like
Right.
I don't think at this point you're worried about, especially considering the time off they've got here before they even play the first game, about Lankinen. If he stonewalls them the first two games, if he plays both games, then I think you just play them all three, because Dallas has lost. Dallas is 2-5-3 in their last 10. So I'm not trying to act like they're not good, right? But they're not playing well. And they're missing a lot of their key players too. So, if you can win all three of those games against the Lightning, again, I know fantasy land here, but if you can do that, or at least if you have the opportunity to, and then you've got Dallas coming up, I think maybe that's where you go, all right, we got the hard team out of the way. We got Lincoln and that experience, then maybe we go to Subban on Tuesday. But I don't know. Like if they lose game one, maybe they go to Subban right away for game two. I think that's probably how it would go. If they win game one, I think they go right back to Lincoln and with against Tampa.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with it, but
Yeah,
um,
but
it all depends. So I mean, I judging by like I said, unless something really drastic happens, I don't see Lincoln and starting back to back. But maybe Colleton will surprise me and put him back to back. So we'll
yeah,
see
well,
how.
like I said, I think it probably depends on game one, because Lincoln's probably starting the first game. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, no question. I think he'll start the first game. So
So if he wins the first game, then I think the odds of him actually playing the second game go up.
yeah, yeah. So
But anyway, I'm excited, honestly, man, because I've been sick of watching the same freaking teams for the last
well,
month.
right. It feels like it's been nothing but Carolina, Columbus, and Detroit. So I mean
Yeah,
but now we're into a pretty extended, tough stretch of games here. So this, like I said, I think this month determines of whether or not,
we're pretenders or not.
yeah, exactly, whether we're contenders or whether we're pretenders. So,
Yep.
but
But anyway, that will wrap up this edition of Riding the Pine in our review of Game 23. Again, big game in Blackhawks history tonight. Patrick Kane nets his 400th goal against the hated Detroit Red Wings. Hawks win by a score of 7-2. They avenged that god awful outing from last night. They improved their record to 12-7-4 on the season, going 5 games over 500. Again, after avenging that loss from last night. And as we've been talking about, they will now head, or are they heading? Is Tampa coming here?
yes, Tampa
Yeah.
is coming.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Tampa will come into town for game one on Thursday. Got that nice break. And yeah, we can all wait in anticipation for that matchup. We haven't seen Tampa since opening weekend. And those were not a good couple games.
No, they were not.
So we'll see how the Hawks do. But until next time, everybody, as I've been saying every show, take care of yourselves, take care of everybody that's close to you in your household, and friends included. Check in on them if you haven't heard from them. Wear your masks, take your vaccine if you're in line, or encourage your loved ones who might be older, any grandparents or parents, to go and get their vaccine so we can get out of this. I think we're all itching to get back to normal. And yeah. But with that, we will see you all Friday morning with our review of the Hawks in Tampa Bay. So until then, let's go Blackhawks.
All right, go Hawks. Thanks again, everybody.